Greetings, everyone, and happy holy day on this day of Jehudi Doth, Holy Day Wednesday. And I want to give thanks to our great Lord Enki and all the gods who were part of the creation process. Also, want to give thanks to the House of Pharaoh and to our Pharaoh Akhenaten, our Pharaoh Akhenaten. You all know him as King Tut. To the house of Canaan, to the house of Mizraim, to the house of Put, to the house of Cush. There's so many. To our great great grandfather Ham, our great 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 grandfather Atrahasis, and to all the human family of the firstborn. I want to give thanks. I want to give thanks to the dragons, to the jinn, to those who were part of our legacy in who we are as a people of Asiatic African Moorish descent. And our history goes deep, folks. So a lot of things that I will share with you is going to be way over a lot of people's heads. They just don't know. So they're not going to fully understand and until they do their own research, they do their own due diligence, and they see the truth for themselves. A lot of times, when I say things, I'm actually giving you reference on where to look. Some things you can Google, some things you cannot, because even AI will get it wrong. Because you got to know who's behind programming that. So you got to understand that most are not privy to certain knowledge. It is not. But folks, could we have asked for a better outcome than what we got? Look at what's happening. Pay attention. Look at what's happening. Every nation around the world is turning against the West. It's amazing. You couldn't ask for anything better. Trump taking the White House is no accident. It's part of the grand plan. It really is. They're thinking in their minds it's business as usual. They're going to go ahead and just reallocate and do what they always do. I'm talking about the Europeans, the ones who are of European descent here in the Americas, because that's who they are. And it's just, you just couldn't ask for anything better. You know the old saying, a person can be their own worst enemy? You couldn't even make this stuff up. A lot of times when I'll sit and I just listen and they publicize it, they put it on national television and they'll publicize it in front and center and for all the world to see. And the world's got to be laughing and saying, you got to be joking, right? No. Mm. The thing about it is, it's not a laughing matter. It's a very serious matter. And you got people running the show who have no clue. And they're supposed to know better. If you're in politics, whatever label your whatever banner you're under, it's irrelevant. But most of these people are so-called Freemasons. Let's not get it. Let's just call it what it is. Most of these people, so-called Freemason, Skull and Bones, all kind of these esoteric organizations, daughters of the American Revolution, all them that are wearing your fez, Moors, and so-called, I just don't get it. You would think they would know better. You would think they would have figured it out by now. Nothing is accidental. It's not coincidence. These people are shooting themselves. It's like prophecy is being fulfilled right before our eyes. And it's like they manipulate the weather and then call it climate climate change. Hey, don't talk about climate change. They constantly trying to control and manipulate and bully people all over the planet, and it's backfiring on them. So here we go. Here we go. Folks, you can't even make this stuff up. These storms are really a signal to remind those who say they're in charge that they're really not. You're really not. You're on this planet. And even the firstborn, those of African descent, we even have to obey. You have to stand within the law. That's divine law, universal law, nature's law, jurisprudence. All right? Maxims of law, the common law, common sense. Those things that govern us as a people and as human beings on this planet. As long as you're in compliance with that, you're good. But when those want to step outside of that and act a fool while they're doing it, you see what happens. Folks, remember the images of Gaza after the Israeli government bombed Gaza like to no end, doing all kind of atrocities to these people, had the audacity to stand there and cry when the bombs fell on Tel Aviv. They were on television boo-hooing. How could this happen to us? We want peace. I said, no. It can't. This is not even stupid. It's worse than stupid. How do you do shit to people? Murder their children, murder the people, starve them out, make them homeless, take their shit. But when it's your turn, you're upset. You're talking shit. You out there, how could this be? What do we do? Doggone it. Okay, all right. Well, hold that thought. Just like in Ukraine. It's so funny. People here in the States got short memories. Y'all forgot when the Ukrainian government was dropping bombs and murdering them people in eastern Ukraine. The Russian people, the Russian-speaking people of Ukraine, they domiciled in the nation of Ukraine. But you got to understand the history of that region. The Zelensky folks, they didn't like the Russian-speaking people. They wanted to stop that. They didn't want to even speak in Russian. That they were changing the history and in the schools, even the religion. And they were murdering them people. And them people were begging Russia. They were begging the Kremlin, please help us. And they were being murdered and killed. Thousands of them suffered and died at the hands of the Ukrainian government. Folks, them bastards are getting blown up today and getting their butts kicked the same way they did them people. And do you know Europe is sided with them fools that started that shit? Putin didn't start that shit. They even voted to leave because of what happened. And it goes deeper than that. They did all kind of treaties, had all kind of conferences and meetings. The Minsk agreements was one of them. Here in the States, it's really no different. It's really no different. When you look at Netanyahu and how he behaves, he is very similar. And those what they call Zionists, I think they call them Zionists. Picture a Zionist unrelated to Judaism and come back to the States, come back to here in the Americas and what happened with people of African descent. We're very similar to what is happening in Gaza today with the Israelis and Netanyahu. What they're doing to the Palestinians over there is what happened here with the KKK and all these supremacist groups that left Europe now, came here to the States, came here to North America. I put it like that because the States hadn't formed yet. And they say they were seeking new homes and freedoms and all that bullshit. No, they weren't. They knew there were resources here and the people, it was plentiful. So that's why they came here. But they brought with them their evil attitudes, their ways of life. That's where that's coming from, folks. But if you don't know who you are, because that was taken away from you, that's why I can't get too riled up when I speak to someone that looks like me, they got skin like me, and they just don't get it. They're still saying, well, black people have been suffering, black rights and African American rights and reparations and all that. Let me tell you something. You have to know the meaning of words, and to receive reparations, that means to repair a nation. Historically, black people have no nation. Historically, you must belong to a nation. So what's your nation? Because if there is, then what's your nationality? Because black is not a nationality. Colored is not a nationality. People of color is not a nationality. Negro is not a nationality. African American is two continents. It's not a nationality. So I understand when some people just don't get it. They're so stuck on the black thing because it's been ingrained in them to think that way. Just like the religious beliefs that you see today with people of African descent, not just here in the Americas, over in the continent of Africa. They're practicing European version of Christianity. They don't do the African version. They do the European version. The man that they pray to and look up to has blonde hair and blue eyes named Jesus. That is not what's written in the original books, because his name is Yeshua. And it describes what he looked like. Hair like lamb's wool. Feet as burnished as brass. Meaning, Yeshua was darker than me. Do y'all know that? Is that who you're praying to? Because you want to know something? The Russians got it right. Even in Eastern Europe. The picture of the so-called Mary and the Christ is darker than me. Is that what's hanging on y'all's walls and in y'all's churches? And who y'all praying to? Let's be honest. Because that's also what was done to you. It's a book. They even wrote a book on it. How to make a Negro Christian. I'm not making this up. They even wrote a book on it back then. Jim Crow, the Monroe Doctrine, all that crap. Folks, I want you to start thinking not with your feelings and your emotions, but with logic and reason. Deal with the facts only. Get over your emotions, because the emotional side will get you all worked up and you'll miss the point, because you can't do that. And even with people who are Caucasian, of European descent, you can't get all twisted about that, because they're not all created equal, folks. They're not. Not every Caucasian behaves that way. What you see going on out there, all that supremacist nonsense. There are many Caucasians that absolutely disagree with that nonsense because they know better. They're not caught up in that. But you can't just look at them as a whole people and say they all act that way. No, that is not true. That is not true. So it is it goes by the individual, and every person is going to be different. And just because they happen to be Caucasian, what we know as the hybrid, historically, you can't act a fool, just because some behave that way, but not all of them did that. And not all of them harbor all that hatred and animosity. No, they really don't. Not all of them, because I've met some. That's how I know. So I don't get caught up in that. But folks, you got to read Georgia House Resolution 1203. You must read it. I've read it many times. I posted it on my pages. You just got to do your own due diligence. You got to do your own research and find it for yourself. Circle 7 Holy Quran, chapter 47, lines 1 through 10. Read it. It's going to tell you. Read the Kabbalion. Read the Hermetica chapter 12, the Zodiac of Destiny. Read it. Then you see why Pharaoh, all them from way back, eons ago, everyone knew the movement of the heavens is what's going to tell you the fate of man. It's written in the Hermetica, chapter 12. It's called the Zodiac and Destiny. But until you stop coming out of your feelings and your beliefs and deal with the facts, you're not going to know that. And you're just going to sit there and keep doing the same thing you've been doing and complaining. And you're suffering, but you don't know why you're suffering. These people came here to take your shit. They left Europe because they knew there was opportunities elsewhere. And they went to and fro throughout the world. So it's not just here in the Americas. But the story about who we are as a people goes deep in the Earth planet. You got to really have the desire and the curiosity and the gumption and the courage to want to search and seek out the truth and what's really going on. Once you do, you're not going to get caught up in all this nonsense. You just keep things simple, and then you'll know there's no such thing as what do you call this? The thing that the tag that they have now, the U.S. citizen. The U.S. citizen's corporate. U.S. citizen comes under the democracy and not under the republic, because a U.S. citizen, U.S. All caps, that is under the straw. That's chattel property. Even the Caucasians, even those who call themselves white people, you're a U.S. citizen, you're corporate. That's why you're taxed as a corporation. Even though they say, you know, corporations, businesses are taxed differently. Well, seems like your taxes keep going up, but taxation without representation, and why are people of African descent being used as chattel property? Why? Because slavery had ended. So why would people of African descent be taxed when they're not represented by the government that supposedly is serving them? Because if they are represented, you show me. Because I'm not aware of it. So there's a lot of bullshit going on. And the thing is, until our people wake up and identify by their true nationality and who they are as a people and as a nation, then you can stand up there and say, give me my shit. Because the Holocaust in Germany, when that shit was over, them people stood up and said, we want our shit back. They went as far as taking other people's shit to give them back their shit. Yeah. So that's a bunch of this nonsense when you say, well, with people of African descent is it's not the same. The hell it ain't the same. Actually, what was done to people of African descent is worse than what happened with the Holocaust. Are you kidding me? You want to try to compare? Try it. You tell me what's the difference. And how is their situation and how is it there in every facet, everything you could think of, in banking, in government, wherever you look. Them people got their shit back plus some after what happened. And still being supported. Uh-huh. Okay. If you are of Asiatic African descent, and I say Asiatic African descent because Canaan is in West Asia, not the Middle East. That disputed land called Palestine, which is occupied by the Israelis, was once known as the land of Canaan. Those are your ancient beginnings. Circle 7, Holy Quran, chapter 47, lines 1 through 10. Georgia House Resolution 1203. Read it. Your nationality is Moorish American. That's your nationality. Do your research. You'll see what I'm talking about. Then you can demand your shit back. You cannot do it as a black person. Because black was created by them. That's of their own creation, just like Jesus, of their own creation. Now, if you want to get into the reality of the situation, what we're really dealing with, then the people that they call Negro, black, colored, African American, before the Europeans created that apartheid regime, we didn't know what a Negro was. We didn't know what a black person was. We didn't know what a colored person was. An African American. We didn't know those things. Those terms allude to slavery. Those are tags. put on our people. So you cannot claim that and then claim you deserve to be treated a certain way when they're the ones that created the black man, the Negro, the colored. If you call yourself that, you're saying you belong to them. Talking to our people is like a deer staring at headlights. I could sit, even in my own goddamn family, same thing. You tell them you're not black. Well, then what are we? You have a nationality. It's frustrating as hell. The moment I heard the truth, the moment I heard it, I said, no. How could anyone not understand what that means to have a nationality? I just don't get it. Some of our people want to be Negro. They want to be black. It's so ingrained in them, just like going to church. And they got a blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus sitting up there on that wall that they're praying to. And you're darker than me. You were here first. Your people were here before we knew even what a so-called Jesus was. We were here already. Been here. Been here, done that. Y'all went backwards when you turn to that. So, when you lack knowledge, when you're ignorant, and you want to be ignorant, this is what you get. But I'm going to say to those who want to step out of mental slavery, stop that. Correct your language and your mindset and your thinking processes. Learn the truth. Proclaim and declare your Moorish nationality. And stand up for truth. Stand up for law. Enforce that constitution, because that is a contract. They are bound by that. Without that agreement, they have nothing to stand on. They must abide by that constitution. And if anyone has a question about it, Article 6. Any laws to the contrary, notwithstanding. Article 6. Folks, I know what we're dealing with. We're up against some serious nonsense. But it starts with you. It really does. It starts with you. You step out of the illusion. You step out of the nonsense. Once you do that and you stand on truth, then the lies run. They run for the hills because they have nothing to stand on. They're playing you because you're part of the illusion. You fell for it. Don't fall for it no more. And we're going to see a lot of changes, folks. What's coming down the pike has to happen. It just has to happen. Unfortunately, because we're all here, when the bombs are dropping in Israel, when it's their turn to reap what they have sown, don't think it's going to be pleasant. It's not meant to be a cakewalk. Well, the same applies here in the States. These so-called United States, they've done some serious shit to people. And what gets me, these are people who practice Freemasonry, which I shouldn't be surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. But like we've always been told, not everybody uses that knowledge wisely. They don't use it properly. And they use it for personal gain, and they use it to manipulate and control people. And this is the shit you get. But the law still stands. Justice always prevails. Always. I don't know how else to put it. Folks, continue to study. Treat others as you want to be treated. Use common sense. Step out of your feelings and your emotions and deal with facts. That's all. Deal with the facts. When somebody comes at you twisted, you direct them to the truth. That's all. They look totally stupid, talking all that crap, and they just talking about their feelings and their beliefs and what they feel, which means absolutely nothing in the presence of the truth. So a lot's gonna happen. The weather is telling us a lot, even though it's being manipulated. Okay, it's just backfiring. That's all. Because they've always been manipulating the weather, but it's backfired. They wanted things to happen, but not the way it's been happening. Because now a lot of their own are perishing, literally perishing. I mean, it's killing children. That's why I said you can't even make this stuff up. They're shooting themselves in their own foot. They are poking Iran, been taking jabs at them, and egging them on to fight. Why would the Europeans do that? Why would the U.S. do that? Because the stars have already spoken. The U.S. and the West is done. It's a done deal. It's over. So now you just got to get with the program. And they don't want to? Okay, you don't want to. That's fine. You're going to see. And it's going to come to a point where you have no choice. How about that? So, folks, Asiatic, Canaanite, African, Moorish descent, you're going to get your shit plus interest anyway. So, the ancestors are not sleeping. And it's coming through loud and clear. Look for the movement of the moon, Saturn, and Pluto. Pay attention to the positions of the moon, Saturn, and Pluto. If no one else told you, I told you. And if you're a so-called Freemason, you should know what I'm talking about. The moon, Saturn, Pluto. As it moves through the heavens, and they form those aspects in the heavens, and you look and you see, that's a message to you. Look for these things to happen. It ain't going to be pretty. Because it's already been foretold that the Europeans are going to react negatively. They're going to get so pumped up with themselves, in their egos, in their pride. They will destroy themselves in the process. don't care. They don't care. And it's sad because that means a lot of people in Europe are going to suffer. Here in the States, they're going to suffer. Y'all just don't know. But we're all here together. So there's ways to mitigate what's coming down the pipe, but you got to still know the truth, folks. So if you want to sit there and pray and you love the Lord and you know whatever you be doing, okay, fine, whatever. Keep doing it. Let's see what happens. You'll see. Hmm. So peace and love to everyone. Until next time.